Hey guys, men's dating coach HarryWilmington here, founder of IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be answering a question from a guy that wants to know if he should be telling a new girl that he's just met about how immature he was in the past before it gets to her from somebody else. Subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/HarryWilmington to be notified when I post up new videos. All right, guys, so this guy's situation is a little complicated because basically he has an ex-girlfriend who she used to, when they had arguments and stuff, she would tell her other friends of hers that were in their same church group about their arguments, and they would disagree with his point of view. He realized he was immature, so he's tried to grow up since then. And now there's a new girl that's going to the church that he thinks might be attracted to him, but he's worried that news of how he was in the past in terms of his immaturity might end up turning this girl off. And he wants to know how he should handle it. Should he go to the girl and talk about it? Should he go to a friend of his that may have told her about it and talk about it? It's very complicated, and we're going to get into all of that and how he should handle the situation. By the way, guys, I got some awesome freebies at IntrovertDatingSuccess.com right now. You can get your free PDF on the Girlfriend Roadmap Checklist, which takes you through the ins and outs of how to map out your strategy for attracting women and getting them to be the girlfriend. And of course, the Modify Your Mindset 5-day email course, which you can both get again at IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, starts off like this. My ex and I broke up because of different life goals. We are on good terms and still great friends, but there is no romance between us anymore whatsoever. We have the same friend group, and in the past, like 1.5 to 2 years ago, she has talked to some of the ladies in the group about our arguments, and they didn't approve of my position or how I handled it. All right, so you can take this one or two ways. So the first, on the one end, you want to always be mindful of how you're handling arguments and disagreements because you could very well be in the wrong. Like, as much as we like to say, oh, women are over emotional, they think with their emotion and not logic, your logic in an argument could sometimes be flawed. Like, just because you think you're spitting something out that's a logical argument does not mean that you're actually in the right. And also understand that for women, they're really trying to get to a point where they can compromise or have some kind of understanding. And if you're in it just to try to prove your point and prove that she's wrong and all this other stuff, then yeah, she's going to see it as a not effective argument and it's going to hurt her feelings and she's not going to feel you took it the right way. So understand that it's good to analyze and recognize that maybe your ego's too involved or you're too attached to having to be right and not really looking at how can we come to a compromise that's going to be beneficial to our relationship. So it's very good to do work on yourself and analyze that stuff. On the other hand, understand when women go to other women, more often than not, those other women, if they're friends of the first woman, are going to do things to console her and make her feel good, even if that means agreeing with what she's saying, regardless of if you're actually in the right or not. Because again, it's about emotion and it's about camaraderie. Women want to be communal and they want women to like them and agree with them. So they're going to other women already knowing that those women are going to agree with their point of view, okay? So you got to take that with a grain of salt. Recognize that just because she's saying that you did a bunch of things wrong doesn't mean that that was always true. It could be true some of the time, and other times it could just be that she was in her feelings and she went to her group that she knew was going to agree with her to make her feel better, even though she was actually in the wrong. Make a note of that, guys, because I don't want you to be the kind of guy that's always saying, yeah, I did every single thing wrong, and I know I did things that I could be more mature and yada, yada, because that could be the case sometimes, but sometimes when you're right, your woman doesn't have to agree with you for you to be right, okay? Continuing on. He says, they still loved me as a friend and brother in Christ. They just thought I had some growing up to do. I agreed with them. I was immature and acting as such and have since taken steps to become a better man and better partner. New mentors, surrounded myself with positive role models, long conversations with my ex about my failings, etc. And again, if there's a breakup occurs and she's the one that broke up with you or whatever, I always say it's a good idea to be able to get a chance to say, hey, where could I have improved? Where was I messing up? What things could I have done better? And there's going to be some bias there because people are the heroes in their own story. So she may tell you some stuff that for some of that stuff could be just like, that's really more on her than you. But it's still good to get feedback because it's good to know how women are viewing you and how they're experiencing you in these relationships so you can provide the next woman with a better experience. Continuing on, he says, fast forward to the present. I have caught feelings for someone and think she is sending me signals that she is interested. I came to discover that this girl is part of a church small group led by my friend who expressed her disapproval of my actions in the past and is very much a mama bear to her girl. So basically, one of the girls that the ex told about their arguments, this girl disagree with how he handled particular arguments. And now this same girl is a mentor to the girl that he likes. So he's wondering if this friend of his that heard what the ex was talking about that disagree with him is going to now suddenly bring up how he was in the past to this new girl. It's a lot of puzzling to put together. But anyway, so he says, I am unsure of how to handle the situation should this girl express her interest directly. I would love to date this girl and get to know her, but at the same time, I want to be sure that I have fixed the issues I was blind to in the past and have in fact become a better man and partner before doing so and proving it to my friend, her mentor. Okay, so this is where things start to get out of whack. But to his first point, and I think this is an admirable thing that a lot of guys will do, is that sometimes we'll say to ourselves, okay, you know what? Before I date any other person, because I want it to really work out, I'm going to work on being the best possible version of myself. And that is commendable. And that is the thing you should always be working on. And the truth of the matter is, that is the thing that you will always be working on. There is never going to be a time where you are the absolute perfect person ever. That does not mean, though, that you will not be the quote-unquote perfect person for a particular woman, because women are not looking for perfect. And I say this because you might be one of those guys that have been like, man, you know, women want to see me as perfect. I got to be like a 10 out of 10 or whatever. Women themselves are not perfect. And when they come around guys that see them as perfect, they now feel insecure because they know that if at any time they are not perfect, there's a chance that this guy's going to be disillusioned and drop her. So women are not in the habit of wanting you to see them as perfect. And that also means that they're not going to be looking for you to be perfect either. Most women are looking for you to be consistently working on being the best version that you can, because women want to see effort. If you're putting forth effort to try to be a better person, it's better than you thinking that you need to be perfect, or worse, getting to the point where you think you are perfect and then trying to be perfect around her. Because now, in her head, if you're the perfect person, she can't ever mess up. And she's going to be more apt to go to a guy that is not as perfect, but is working on it, but more importantly, is seeing her as a perfectly flawed human that he still wants to be around, than somebody who's perfect. If this guy has come from being an immature person to being slightly more mature than he used to be, then that is perfectly fine. He's going to be consistently working on bettering himself. The fact that he's even aware that he needs to be working on stuff, that means that he's not going to be in his ego about, well, she must always be wrong and I'm the one that's always right. Because women don't like that either. Women want a guy that's going to be like, hey, sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. If I have a point that I think I'm wrong on, then please, or if you think I'm wrong on, then please let me know. We can discuss it. But if I have points that I think I'm right on, I'm going to be very stable in my stance about that. And women want a guy that's going to be true to his convictions also. They don't want a guy that's going to be like, well, I have this point of view, and then she comes along and says, well, you're wrong. And he's like, okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I was wrong the whole time. Because that's not attractive to women either. Women would rather disagree with you and have a discussion about the disagreement, because women bond through conversation, regardless of if you agree with their conversation or not. They just want to have the conversation. They'd rather bond through somebody with that than somebody that's going to just, float with the wind based on what she's feeling. Because her feelings and thoughts about a particular issue or situation can flip-flop from day to day based on her emotion. So you can't both be flip-flopping your positions based on emotion. One of you all in the relationship need to be like, this is my position, and more often than not, I'm going to stick to my position. That doesn't mean you can't be persuaded out of that, but you should still be coming to it with the thought of, this is how I deal with things, this is how I'm handling the situation, and I think I'm right, okay? So to that end, this guy thinking that he needs to fix every single issue he has ever, that will be a long time activity. And guy, that's how you trick yourself into not ever getting with anybody. So understand, you can be working on yourself and still be dating at the same time, okay? And a lot of times you'll find you'll actually fix part of yourself as you get into relationships and as you come up with things against this woman where you're like, oh crap, like I didn't know this was the thing I needed to fix. Or, oh, I didn't know that I had certain thoughts about this issue that are actually toxic or that are not becoming of a more mature man. Let me fix those things. So being in a relationship can actually help that along in the process. Now, with that said, the other thing too is this whole thing he's saying of he feels like he needs to be able to prove to his friend who's her mentor that he's worthy of dating this girl. Dude, that is not a thing you need to do. Like, you don't need to prove to one person that you're mature enough so that way they go and spread the good news to this other person that you're now a date-worthy candidate, okay? That's not necessary, because here's the thing. This other girl that is being mentored by this friend of yours, she may actually agree with you on some of the things that her mentee or her mentor disagrees with you on. Because, and I'll tell you a true story. I have had women before that I've dated who have found out things about my past that aren't like the biggest deals in the world, but some things were like, maybe I was a little immature at certain times, or I was having certain thoughts about certain issues that wasn't really as fully developed then as it is now. And those women find out those things and they still want to date me and hook up with me, and it's totally fine. Why? Because even if it was a point they disagreed on, at the time in my life, wherever that was, I was still taking a position. I was still taking a stance. I was expressing my views and being able to back it up with whatever I thought was evidence at the time or proof of knowledge. And women understand that as guys get older, they mature. So they might look at your past and say, well, that's how I was back then. But you know what? Either A, I agree with what he was saying back then, or B, I don't agree, but I see where he's at now. And again, I'm willing to have a discussion about those things, okay? And I think guys get so in their head about that because we really are just like, being able to get women and keep them, it's such a big deal for us because it's part of our survival and being able to like pass on our seed. And so we think that we got to cover up all these imperfections that we have in order for women to like us. And as I said earlier, women have their own insecurities and their own things that they're going to be dealing with that they're going to want you to be able to handle. So if a woman has to go through proof of concept from her friends in order to prove of you, then that's not really a girl you want to date in the first place, because anytime you have a disagreement or argument, she's going to run back to that person that's mentoring her and be like, well, this guy said this thing and blah, 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 blah. And now your friend's going to also be on her side and you're going to lose the girl, okay? So in an ideal situation, you don't need to try to prove to your friend that you're worthy for this other girl to date you. You need to go directly to the girl that you're interested in and start having those conversations. Plus, if she's already interested in you, let's say she's already interested and she's already been told these other conversations or been told about you and how you were in the past and this and that. If she knows all that and she's already showing interest, then there's really no need for you to have this discussion. Okay, so really consider that also, that being a possibility. So then he says, I'm thinking of conversation with my friend might be in order. Should this girl express her interest? I'm just unsure of how to go about it, even if it's the right move. No, it's not the right move. You don't need to go to girl A to try to convince her that you're a worthy enough guy to be able to go to girl B. Okay, it's not her mom. It is a mentor situation. But that said, she's already showing signs of interest. She's looking at you and saying, oh, that guy's whatever. You need to just go over there to that girl and do what you got to do. And don't worry about what other people have said to her. And on the off chance that one of these girls says, hey, so, so-and-so, he was this way in the past. He had a girlfriend and they had a disagreement. And this is what I thought about X, Y, and Z. Well, if that happens, it happens. And if that happens and she comes to you and says, hey, I heard this is whatever happened, the worst thing you could do is be ashamed. You can say things like, that's how I was in the past, that's how I thought back then, but I'm a new man now, but never be ashamed for how you were in the past. The past you didn't know all that the new you knows now, okay? So everybody deserves a little bit of grace for their younger self not knowing everything that the new version of you knows now. You can say, hey, that's how I was back then, I'm a new guy now, but hey, babe, if you want to experience it for yourself, let's go out and have a good time. And you handle it like that, and you don't get scared or nervous when your past comes up, because that's going to show that you're ashamed of it. That's going to show that you had something to be ashamed of, and that can actually turn girls off more than saying, hey, that's how I was back then, but I learned some new stuff, and now I'm a better person for it. But if I hadn't been that guy, I wouldn't be the guy I am now. You be proud of who you were back then. Be proud of who you are now, and don't let the opinions of other women that were told about that situation dictate how you feel and how you approach this new girl, okay? Don't let it happen. So hopefully that helps you guys out. And for other guys that are in that situation, just know, as much as women fall for bad boys and jerks, it's not that you need to be that guy, but one of the things that they like about those guys, that they are the guy that's going to say what they feel, that's going to, express openly what their thoughts and feelings are, and don't really give a flying crap about whoever hears it and what their other opinions are. And women are more apt to fall for guys who don't give a crap about other people's opinions than the guys that are so wound up and worried about what other people think that they're trying to change themselves. Because women would rather date the authentic version of you than date the version that's trying to people please and lie to see to it that people like you. So don't be that guy. Be the guy that is going to be the guy that says, hey, you know what? This is how I think. This is how I feel. This is how I was back then. This is how I am now. And both of those guys are great, but this one just knows a lot more and is better able to handle the world. And babe, I want to take you along for the ride with me if you're down. Thank you for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode and catch new episodes every Monday and Thursday right here on my YouTube page or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out other episodes so you too can date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.